Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, YouTube. It depends on what time you are clicking on the video. For those of you who are new to this channel, welcome and thank you for joining us. For those of you who are subscribers to my channel, I want to say thank you for your continued support. It is a sunny day here in Wisconsin, but don't let the sun behind me fool you. It's about 8 or 12 degrees, but I'm going to enjoy the sun nonetheless. For those of you who have been here on my channel, you know you're following me on my journey of writing my memoir. One of the themes in my memoir is child sex abuse. And so I felt the need, the desire to really do a video on the topic. When I started creating a video, I realized I needed way more than one video. So this is the third video of a 3-part series on child sexual abuse. The first video focused on defining sexual abuse. We looked at some terms. We really put a face on sexual abuse. We also talked about some statistics. In the second video, we talked about some warning signs that may indicate that children are being abused sexually. And we also talked about some characteristics, some things that perpetrators tend to do. The link to both of those videos are listed below in the description box, so please check those videos out if you have not already saw them. Today I'm going to focus on a little bit of my experience with being sexually abused as a child. So here we go. If you have questions, please post your questions. I'm definitely open to answering your questions. If you have comments, please post your comments. And I'm not going to share like explicit details about my experience. Those will be actually in my memoir. But I will just share some information about my experience. Okay. When I was 9 years old, I was sexually abused by one of my neighbors. This was an older neighbor. They were 15 or 16 years old. I can't remember exactly the age, but between 15 and 16. And this abuse went on for about 4 years. The abuse occurred in their home because I was supposedly being babysat by their older sister. Okay. And the abuse ended when they moved to a different neighborhood. I remember as a child going to visit my mother and I went to go visit this family when they moved. So we went to go visit them at their new place. And I remember being there in the living room, and I remember seeing another young girl interacting with this person who sexually abused me. And I knew that this young girl was being abused as well. It was something about the look in her eye. It was something about the interactions they were having with this person who abused me, and I knew it. I knew that this individual was their new victim. In the video we talked about, the first video, we talked about how sometimes children who are sexually abused don't report the abuse for a year, some up to 5 years, some never report the abuse. Well, I didn't disclose that I was abused by this person until I was 20 years old. I actually told my mother when I was 20 what happened. And so this was way, after the abuse occurred. When I think back on that day, I was in the presence of this other person who I just really know in my heart was being sexually abused by this person. When I think back on that day, I feel awful because I wonder what would have happened had I told. Had I told what happened to me, either when it occurred or even after it occurred, when I saw those interactions with my abuser and that new person. I wonder how many kids were abused after me because I didn't tell. Okay, so you might say, well, you really don't know that that person was being sexually abused by your abuser. And I really don't know, but I really feel in my heart they were. And so I often wonder what would have happened, because we know that abusers generally don't stop at one, right? So it's this opportunity. And so now they were in a new neighborhood. They were in a new house. There were new kids to abuse. And so I'm really believing that person was abusing the individual I saw. Hopefully not. But if I had told, I could have prevented potentially future abuse that this person portray, onto other people. I actually saw this person again when I was about 20 years old, and I talk about in my book their interactions with that person at that time. Let's just say it was a very interesting interaction, and it was like I was back to being a 9-year-old girl all over again. So the effects are real, and they never really go away. And so that's the next thing I want to talk about, lasting effects. I know that this abuse affected me in high school as I maneuvered through high school, the sexual experiences I had with other people. I know it affected me in my young adulthood. It affected my marriages, my relationships. And so it's something that really just doesn't go away. So if you're out there and, some of you may have been sexually abused as children and you never told anyone, you never had counseling about it, I plead to you, please, try to seek professional help, because a lot of times people use mechanisms to bury it. I'm going to be honest with you. I suppressed this sexual abuse till I was about 18. I didn't remember that I was sexually abused by this person until after I was married. And it's like all of a sudden, these memories just came rushing back to me. And it still took me about 2 years after I remembered this sexual abuse to tell my mother. So, I plead to you, if you were a victim of sexual abuse, please talk to someone. Please do. What helped me deal with this as an adult, as a young adult, I was in foster care. I was placed back in foster care when I was 13 years old. And during that time, I had to talk about all the things that happened to me when I was living in my mother's home. And as a teenager, as an adolescent, I hated talking about the things that happened to me as a child, the physical abuse, the emotional abuse, the sexual abuse. But as an adult, I'm glad I was forced to talk about those things. And even now as an adult, going to therapy, talking to a counselor, these are some things I still talk about. As I've been writing this book, I've been, reliving all these memories. And so I've talked about these things with my therapist. And so the things to help me deal with this have been talking to a licensed mental health counselor, someone who's trained to support someone who's been through trauma. Also, I'm a person of faith, so my belief in God, my faith in the Bible, my prayer life has really helped me through this process. But another thing that's helped me as well is listening to other people's experiences who've experienced sexual abuse. And I hate that people have experienced this. I hate that I experienced this. But listening to people who experienced it makes me feel kind of normal. It's like, okay, the things I experienced because of being sexually abused, my thoughts about things, my experiences, my fears, all these things were normal. So to hear somebody else talk about their experiences, it makes me not feel like I'm so abnormal. No, the abuse should not have happened, but it did. And the effects of the abuse, the mindset I had, some experiences I had, hearing other people's stories, I know like, wow, okay, I'm not crazy. Some of these things I experienced, they're normal. And so that's one of the things also to help me. I just didn't feel like I was all alone. And that's one reason why I really wanted to do videos in regards to this topic, is because I want people out there who are listening, who are watching, to know that if you experienced this, if you are supporting kids who experienced this, if you're married to someone who experienced this, if your partner experienced this, some of the things they're going through, they're just not normal. And so it's good to know how you can support these individuals in your lives, or how you can get support for yourselves. So I definitely thank you for listening to these videos as I endeavor to go through this series. If you want to hear more information, read more about my experiences, I will actually again be talking about these things in my memoir. So once it's out, you can read about my experiences. Thank you so much again for listening. Please take care of yourselves. Stay safe and stay well. Take care. Bye-bye.